and welcome to Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast where we talk about all of the things that I love, some of the things that I hate, and this wacky adventure that we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I'm glad you're here today as we discuss gone but not forgotten drum corps, preview our Rant Bracket, have something neat with Matt, and cruise control. Let's get started. Welcome back to today's episode. Happy March 4th. True, March 4th has passed, so we're actually a little bit late. This was supposed to be last week's episode. However, since the Dr. Maxwell interview demanded 2 episodes, we decided to put those back to back, bump this a week late. And so we're a little late, but hey, who's here to sue us? It's still March 4th, and we are celebrating with some drum corps talk today, some other things, etc. We'll get to all that in a minute, but I want to share with you, we haven't done Star Wars in a while, so I wanted to sneak in a little bit of Star Wars. I just finished the 9th novel in the High Republic series of books, and this is probably its own podcast episode someday, but if you're a Star Wars fan and you have never read any of the novels, this is a great place to start. There are a lot of them, so maybe not the best place to start. We've got some others, like you could look at the Thrawn series. That's a short, great read. There's some other individual novels that are fantastic. If you're interested, we can maybe go into a novels podcast sometime. This series takes place 200 years before Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This is before Palpatine. This is before the Sith, before the Skywalkers. Yoda is mentioned, but doesn't really appear in the books per se. This is the era when, quote, the Jedi were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic, before the Dark Times, before the Empire, end quote, as Obi-Wan says in A New Hope. This is the story of that. It's a long series. These 9 novels are Phase 1. Phase 2 takes place before that in true Star Wars fashion, and then there's Phase 3. I think there's 28 books total if you want to read the whole series, and I plan to do that someday. There is a shorter way to do it if you want. You don't have to read their sort of off-sprout in the 9, so you could do it in, I think, 5 novels or 6, maybe something like that. Would have to look that up for you. You can look it up yourself. There's plenty of websites devoted to how to read the High Republic series. Anyway, if you want to get started, the first one is called Light of the Jedi. It's by Charles Soule, or Soule. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. It's Soule. Now, I will warn you, if you're going to read Light of the Jedi, it is at times a little bit like drinking through a fire hose. There's a lot of characters and a lot of names and a lot of things happening sort of all early on because they have to introduce you all these characters. But most of these characters make it through a bunch of novels, so once you kind of figure it all out, it's there. There are some great heroes. There are some absolutely fantastic villains, great stories. It's a different view of the Force. This is for light and life. This is the Force is a living thing that flows through us, as Obi-Wan sometimes says in A New Hope. He indicates that. Why? Because Obi-Wan got it from Qui-Gon, and I've mentioned on this podcast a couple of times, Qui-Gon is sort of the last true Jedi that believes in things from the Old Republic. Listen to Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was trained by Dooku. Dooku, one of the reasons he left the Order was because they were getting away from this idea of the living Force guiding all things and relying on that guidance. So, check it out. We'll discuss it deeper another time. Just wanted to put it out there. Great books, highly recommended. Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. I don't know how you say it. Anyway, we're moving on. Reminder, you can find us on YouTube at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music, all one word, no spaces, including old podcast episodes, shorts, and our Star Wars episodes playlist that has only the episodes of the podcast that relate to Star Wars. There is also some RHS Music composition stuff mixed in there too, so if that's not what you're looking for, you can parse that out on your own. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast, and also RHS Music has its own Facebook at RHS Music. Okay, on today's show, we discussed DCI Gone But Not Forgotten drum corps with Harrison. This is drum corps that used to exist and were once very famous and no longer exist. We preview our fourth and final bracket with Kathy. This is our Rant Bracket. We also have something neat with Matt as we wrap up our round one bracket bourbon pairings and cruise control. Oh, there's a lot to do. Let's get rolling.
No, breathe. Find your happy place.
And we welcome our producer and my sister, Kathy, to the show. Kathy, how are you today?
I'm great, Bob. How are you?
Besides the technical problems of getting your mic to connect to your computer and your headphones to connect to your phone and all of those sorts of things, you're good.
There's always a reboot to do, right? As you need the microphone to work, you know?
That's why you have a live-in tech nerd doing all of your tech support, right?
I do, and he fixed it, and it's great.
He's amazing. All right, are you ready? We're going to preview our fourth and final bracket today. Are you excited?
I am so excited.
Okay, this is our rant bracket. It is made of 8 rants from earlier episodes of the podcast. Now, full disclosure, ChatGPT did not make this bracket. I made it myself, so there is inherent bias in the system. So to help, that's where you come in. You will be taking us through this and then making all of the decisions, so my bias is completely removed from the situation. She has decided to make her decisions based on relatability of the rant, my level of frustration in the rant, her own general amusement of the rant, and any other random factors that she picks along the way. The winning rant will get a redo at the end of next week's show. Now, that's not me taking the recording from back then and including it. I'm going to redo the rant next week once I know who the winner is. So today is only a preview, so don't give us any of the results. We're just going to talk about them. You ready to get started?
I am. I have looked forward to nothing more than criticizing your rant.
That sounded a little sarcastic, but let's get started. We're going to start at the top of the bracket. The 1 seed is the speed limits rant from episode 2, which actually was the first full episode. So this is the OG. This is the first rant ever on the podcast. It pairs up with the GIF or GIF rant from episode 17, which is the 8 seed. What do you think about those two, that matchup there, 1 versus 8?
You know, I went back and as I was listening to each of these, the speed limit rant only sounds a little bit ranty to me compared to some more recent rants. But this is an OG. You have been complaining about speed limits on Fox Road for years and years, and the number of speed limit signs and all of that. So yeah, I like that rant. The GIF or GIF rant, I love it when one is right and one is wrong. I love that it's an abbreviation, so it feels like an answer. I will say that this causes a little bit of disagreement in my household. And so my very nerdy husband, who you alluded to before, disagrees with you on this. He makes the other argument. In that rant, you said there was no other argument to be understood, and he disagrees. So this one causes some disagreeing in our household, which I actually kind of love. So yeah, those are my thoughts on those two.
Yeah, there's no other argument.
Yeah,
It's just,
well, I agree with you, but
it's just the way you feel, I guess, which is wrong. Yeah, speed limits is definitely the OG. That goes way back to annually, probably more than once a year. I would rant about that at some point in class or at school or whatever. That kind of, yeah, that's why I did it first. It was probably the first ever live rant that I had done at some point. We're going to go to the bottom of the sheet now. We have the 2 seed, which is from episode 13, People Who Read Us PowerPoints. I know you're very passionate about that yourself. Against Sand from episode 18. That was the episode we did Star Wars, that episode where Anakin rants about sand a little bit, and that is in the 7 seed position. Thoughts on those two?
so many of us feel this about PowerPoint slides, right? I had to do a presentation yesterday. I took my whole presentation, put it into the Google Slides, and deleted a bunch of information off of every slide so that you could just see the main points, And I could go on and on. I don't think it's that hard. This infuriates me, and I'm very passionate about this. As we talked about my husband, this is his favorite rant. He has to listen to presentations a lot and feels like it's a colossal waste of time when people read them to us, which he agrees with you on that. This is maybe the closest matchup. I also feel very strongly about sand, and I hate the beach and I hate sand. I love that in that rant you can't even finish a sentence, which makes me really amused, and this one I feel deeply too. So this is a really tight matchup for me.
Yeah, I think people who read us PowerPoints, it's just an indication that the presenter is unprepared.
Mhm.
Like they didn't study, they don't know their material, so they have to have it on the board and then just read it to us. And as a teacher, that offends me.
Yep.
All right, our next matchup is the number 3 seed, a 4-way stop sign rant from episode 11. Again, that's kind of one of my OGs too. Even though we didn't do it till episode 11, that particular intersection continues to plague me. That matches up against our 6 seed, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special from one of our Christmas episodes, episode number 21.
Yes. So the four-way stops episode, when I go back and listen, and I'm here to criticize your rants because, the only thing better than cynicism is criticizing cynicism. You have no intro music to that one, so you lose a point on that rant. I do love the educational value of this rant. You talk about rock back and explaining
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah.
You explain that there are standards, what it means to come to a complete stop. We all needed to learn this stuff in driver's ed. So there is a right way. The right has the right of way.
Yes.
Stop being courteous. I do love those points. And the Star Wars Holiday Special, man, that's just a travesty. I think in the rant you say it's a travesty to sight, sound, all worlds in all galaxies or something.
Yeah, it's humanity, every species is worse for having lived through the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah, the only fault in this rant is that I watched it because you ranted about it, and so I knew it existed. You warned us not to, but
that's on you.
You made it irresistible, so that's on me. But it was a product of this rant, so you docked a point for that.
Yeah, I think the 4-way stop sign, you're right. It's a black and white issue. This is how it works. It's kind of like GIF or GIF. It's clear. There's no other, you can't say, well, but I feel like I should go first. No, you go first or you don't go first. That's how it works. That's how 4-way stops are. All right, our final matchup moving on is our 4 seed garage sale traffic from way back in episode 4. Again, another OG that was timely because it was the 127 garage sales. At that time, I think that was early mid-August. That matches against another oldie, episode 6, people who stand up on an airplane. Your thoughts?
Oh gosh, anyone who has known you for any length of time has heard the garage sale traffic rant, right? I think it's very Bob classic for sure. And I think the only downside is relatability. Not everyone, lives on 127. And sure, we all are exposed to garage sales, but usually it is not hundreds of miles of one road being stop and go kind of nonsense. That is just mind-boggling. It's you use the word menace in that one, and I think that's very apt. Standing on airplanes, both of these rants are really about being considerate, like taking others into account. And so this is a close matchup. I like that you paired these two together for that reason.
Yeah, I think garage sale, you hit the nail on the head with relatability and garage sale traffic. I think garage sales are probably a suburban / small town sort of thing. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as universal as some other things. All right, we'll be back next week. You only got 1 week to figure this out with the results of this bracket. So if you want to play along, you can download a copy from the description in the show notes or from our social media account. And speaking of playing along, we have a new challenge. Today starts our Symbols and Cynicism Bracket Challenge. So if you, the listener, pick all 4 winners from our 4 brackets, that's, by the way, who we pick as our winners. You're guessing who we pick. Then we'll send you a winner's prize package with some Sid fidgets, or Sidgets, I guess if you want to call them that, some key change, keychains, some water bottle stickers, etc. There is no limit to the number of winners, so everyone who picks all 4 will get a prize package. There's also no limit to the number of entries. You can enter as many times as you want, but you can only win once per household. To enter, follow the link in the show description or find the video/link on Facebook on our Symbols and Cynicism a podcast page and fill out the Google form. Remember, you are selecting who we pick, not who you think will win. All entries must be made before midnight on Sunday, March 15th, the Ides of March, as it were, because the reveal drops at 1 a.m. on the 16th, so no fair picking the winners after we've already revealed the winners. Speaking of who we might pick, Kathy, our producer, you've listened to every episode. You've heard us preview these other brackets. Other than the Rant Bracket, you know that winner, so don't give us that one. But we want to know what else you would have done. So let's start with the baseball movies bracket. You listened to the episode. How many of these 8 movies have you seen?
4.
Okay. All right, 4. And so which 4? Give us which 4.
Field of Dreams, Sandlot, League of Their Own, and The Rookie.
And if you were doing
5. I've seen Major League too.
Sorry. All right, you're 5. You're over half. You're doing very well. You're flunking, but you're over half with the curve. Maybe, right? So if you were picking a winner for you of those 5 movies, which would be your favorite?
I'm going with A League of Their Own. Gotta love a chick movie.
You know, I just watched that. It was on this weekend again, just on TV. I cry at the end of that movie every single time. It might be the only one I've ever seen more than once. Yeah.
Of all of these movies, maybe Sandlot too, but League of Their Own is one that I would watch if it was just on. I would stop what I was doing and watch it.
Yeah, great movie. And so, if you were doing the bracket challenge, who do you think Greg and I picked?
Oh gosh, I kind of want to believe Field of Dreams just because that's such a classic, everybody thinks of it movie. It affects so much in the bigger world. So I kind of want to think that. I don't know enough about some of these to know if you would pick those instead.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the drum corps bracket. There's 12 now in this bracket because the top 4 got the bye into the second round. How many of these 12 drum corps shows have you watched?
Bob, I am so dedicated to this podcast. I watched them all in the last 24 hours.
I don't believe a word you're saying.
Oh my gosh, I totally did watch them all.
Okay. All right. Well, which one would your winner be?
So this probably goes against everything you would want me to pick, but I would pick the Santa Clara Vanguard 1989 Phantom of the Opera.
Classic. That, from our high school marching band experience, that is the one that is probably most closely related to what you remember as the marching arts, I would say. So that
it is
the logical pick.
It is, and realistically for me, this does feel a little bit nostalgic, which I know is not really one of you and Harrison's criteria for sure, but I don't know what year it was, so I don't know if it was the year that you and I overlapped in high school, but one year we marched a Phantom of the Opera show, and it was the last show of the football season that year. And I don't know if you remember, we did kind of a light show. We put glow sticks in our plumes, and all the lights in the stadium went out for that, and it was kind of a big deal. And that was a Phantom of the Opera show, one of the years that I marched in high school. So this felt a little like that. It kind of, they make the shape of the mask and things like that during the show, which actually had me wondering if our high school band director, ripped off a little of that style from that. Clearly the Vanguard did this before we did it in high school. So I don't think I was aware of if he watched or was, paying any attention to drum corps, but yeah, it reminded me a lot of that show.
Lee J hated drum corps. We used to get in trouble all the time for talking about blue coats and riding our bikes and down to watch blue coats practice. If he stole it from the Santa Clara Vanguard, he would never admit it. And he's looking down, he passed away not long ago. If he's looking down on me right now going, yes, why are you talking? Every time we record a drum corps episode, I'm like, Lee J is probably mad right now. Okay, so you would pick Santa Clara, but that's not the challenge. The challenge is who you think Harris and I would have picked.
So the question is, do you and Harrison have to agree on a number one?
Yes, there will be one winner. I can tell you that we do not agree on the winner, but there is a final winner. There's no ties. There is a winner, even though we disagree on who it is.
All right, so there is not a Bob winner and a Harrison winner. There is one Symbols and Cynicism winner.
Correct.
I don't think I have a good reason for believing it, but I think you all will go with Babylon.
Okay. Well, if you have listened to enough of the show, you know that is Harrison's favorite show ever.
Mm-hmm. I do know that.
So that, if you want to follow that logic, and personal enjoyment is a factor. So pretty reasonable guess. I'm not trying to give anything away here, but if you've listened enough, What about bourbon? How many of these 8 bourbons have you tried?
I think 4 or 5.
Okay. And of those 4, what's your favorite?
My favorite of the 4, I think, is Wild Turkey 101. We had that at the Bands of America Grand Nationals. You treated me to that while we were all out. It was a good bourbon. I liked it. The ones that I have not tried, I have to tell you, and I have texted you a couple times about this over the last, 8 weeks or so. I have tried reasonably hard to find the other bourbons on the list and had some trouble finding some of those.
Well, availability is a factor.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have not finished the bourbon bracket yet, so there's no hints embedded in any of these, but I couldn't possibly tell you who the winner is, even if I wanted to, because we haven't picked the winner yet. We're not that far along. So who do you think Matt and I are going to pick? Total prediction here.
I kind of hope, and it has nothing to do with anything I've heard so far, I kind of hope you pick Evan Williams Single Barrel, because I want to try Evan Williams Single Barrel based on how you and Bourbon Matt described it on the episode where you described it and Knob Creek 9. But it is one that I have not yet been able to find. So I kind of hope that it wins the CNC bracket so that it becomes so popular that all the grocery stores in my area start carrying it. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, Columbus does have a pretty high market percentage share of listeners of our podcast, but I'm not sure a high percentage of Columbus people are listening to the podcast. So I don't know that we're enough of an influencer in your region. Okay, so there you have it. That is producers Kathy's picks, which I can guarantee you are not all correct. So for one thing, we don't have a bourbon winner, so I don't know about that one. I guess that one could be correct. I'm not sure. But I can tell you that the others, if you follow her picks, you're not going to win. So that's a little bit of a hint, I guess. So Kathy, thanks for being on today. We're going to talk again next week as we reveal our Rant Bracket winners. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, Harrison, welcome back to the show. It's been a couple of weeks since we've talked. How have you been?
I'm pretty good. Ready to talk about drum corps.
Today is the 4th day of March.
National Marching Music Day.
It is March 4th.
It is.
And so we are going to do a special kind of thing today, DCI based, but not to do with the bracket. We will reveal our brackets next week.
We will.
On the next week's episode. But today I've called this DCI Gone But Not Forgotten. I've selected 4 famous drum corps that are no longer around. I sent you a YouTube playlist, which you watched most of.
This is out of my general realm of DCI knowledge.
I know, I'm trying to...
I know a lot about DCI.
Trying to educate you on drum corps history. We'll go through each corps individually, get some initial thoughts, talk about the shows, see what you think historically, and so forth and so on. Fair enough?
Yes.
So let's start with sort of the most recent drum corps to no longer exist. This is the Cadets, or Cadets of Bergen County, or Garfield Cadets, or Cadets of Garfield, or the Holy Name Cadets. They were known various things.
That one has the most aura.
It does. The Holy Name Cadets. They were originally associated with a church, Holy Name Church, so that's where the that name came in. They were founded in 1934. They are 10-time DCI champions. Most recently, 2011, which is a show we'll talk about. They folded just in 2024 after filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy as a result of legal expenses from incurred by defending a 2020 sexual abuse lawsuit involving a former core director and some staff members at that time. And basically the inability to be able to fund the lawsuits and get insurance in order to be able to operate. As part of Chapter 7 filing, that means the group can never perform or reform again, so the cadets will never return. They are not allowed to return. Those 10 championships, that's second only to
the Blue Devils.
Concord Blue Devils, that's right. They were, at the time of their existence, the oldest active drum corps. Pretty interesting. And with their closing, do you know who that leaves as the oldest? Any guesses?
As the oldest, I'll guess Santa Clara Vanguard.
Oh, Madison Scouts.
Okay, that probably was on the list. Yeah.
As the new oldest. I gave you 3 shows. The 1987 Appalachian Spring Show, 1993 in the spring when the Kings go off to war, and 2011 Between Angels and Demons. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about the only one that I had watched before you sent me this playlist.
Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons from 2011. This show is an absolute classic of all time. Their last championship, and just very... So 2011, even, some of these shows, all of the shows on this list are older than that after this one. But this one is... 2011 is still a very different era of drum corps from what we live in now. And the idea that this show is called Angels and Demons, and half of the corps is angels and half of the corps is demons. Those that are angels are in all white variation of the classic cadets uniform, and the demons are in that maroon crimson color that they always wear. And they do a lot of interplay with the different colors, and having half of the corps in one color and half of the corps in another was pretty original and crazy for the time. And that show is a classic music-wise also. That show's great. I love that show.
Yeah, notably in that show is their entrance. They come in from opposite tunnels, the angels from one side and the demons from another. And also the demons, as they enter, sort of throw a marching baritone and smash it onto the field. Some lore there, that was actually a baritone that was left in a parking lot and accidentally got run over by an equipment truck.
Yes.
And so they figured, well, let's work it into the show. And so they would just continue to destroy it week after week, show after show following that. The other part of that is that they could not get maroon dinkles, the marching shoes, so they painted them maroon for the maroon half of the drum corps, but the paint continued to chip off. They spent like thousands of dollars on maroon paint, continuing to repaint those shoes. Yeah, that was a show. I don't know if it was undefeated all year, but kind of was like just awesome all year.
That show's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome show. And definitely their most recent of the classic shows. Although I liked their last year, that Atlas Rising show was... The uniforms were sort of sketchy, but...
I liked the uniforms.
Good show
musically. I
musically.
like that progressive stuff.
Let's go back to 1993 with them. The show was called In the Spring, When the Kings Go Off to War.
Yes.
This was the music of David Holsinger, which is a concert band piece by the same title. And it's medieval, so you have some sort of... It's not Camelot exactly, but sort of that era of kings and queens. And it's based on the Bible verse from the Old Testament at the time when kings go off to war is the exact Bible verse. And it's 2 kings going off to battle. So there's a lot of that medieval imagery. Super, super good horn line in this one.
Yes, which is what the cadets were often known for.
Often known for that, and the drill. This drill is, you know, they used to refer to it as running and gunning, because at the end of the show especially,
they're moving.
Just kind of sprinting around the field, which is not uncommon now, but for then, as you'd see with some of these other shows from the 80s and 90s, the drill tends to move slower. It's more about evolution of drill, not quite velocity or staging.
Less Z-poles in today's drum corps.
Yeah, the Z-pole. I think there is a Z-pole in the spring?
That seems likely.
I think there is.
I don't
They
remember.
used it a lot, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Z-pull and some drill formations. But we got to talk about Appalachian Spring, too. This goes back to 1987. Classic, the music of Aaron Copland, the ballet, Appalachian Spring, very well known.
One of their most
music.
famous shows.
Yeah, certainly one of their most famous shows. The drill here, another couple of really interesting drill moves here. There is a Z-pull. There's also a company front that sort of dissolves and reforms,
cool.
sort of pixelates. Very, very cool. Do you know the drill designer for the cadets in the 1980s?
Not a clue.
It was a man by the name of George Zingali.
Oh, okay. I actually did know that, but I
Famous-
would not have come up with that.
Famous drill writer. He invented the Z-pull. Yeah, he invented a bunch of very famous drill moves that continue to be mimicked over the course in time. And he wrote that 1987 show
Yes.
as well. Anything else about that?
Nope, that's all I got.
So remember that name, George Zingali. So let's talk about the Star of Indiana. Have you heard of the Star of Indiana prior to this?
I have never seen, before this list, I had never seen any of the shows from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen 1991, which is a show called Roman Images. Just the closer, there is a very famous, I think I'm realizing why you brought up Zingali.
Yes.
But there is a very, very famous drill move in the closer of this show where they form kind of a diagonal cross on one side of the field, and then it dissolves into blocks and pinwheels, and I don't think there's any curves, but it's a bunch of pinwheels, and it kind of shifts across the field, and then kind of out of nowhere, they just make a cross that mirrors the first one on the other side of the field. It's known as the cross to cross.
Cross to cross.
They're
move.
playing the whole time. Some people are moving at like a 22 to 5, and some people are moving at like a 3 to 5. It's like huge step sizes on one end, tiny step sizes on the other end, and some people are just running while they're playing.
And they are ripping some notes.
It's ridiculous.
It is not
It's
whole notes. The
crazy.
mellophones are killing it. Yeah, famously known as the cross to cross, which was only put in like 10 or 12 days before finals that summer. So,
It's all straight lines. They got it.
yeah, right. The Star of Indiana was founded in 1984 in Bloomington, Indiana. 1985 was their first competitive season, placing 10th in their first season. They won the championship in 1991 with the Roman Images show that you just discussed. And their last season was 1993. So just a decade or so. Placing second that year, they medaled in all 4 of their final 4 seasons, placing third in 1990, first in 91, third in 92, and second in 1993. In their entire core history, short though it may be, they never missed finals.
Wow.
Never placing lower than 10th. In 1994, following their exit from the DCI stage, they transitioned into a traveling concert-style performance that they entitled Brass Theater, which sort of travel around the country in the summers and play parks and different venues, which toured in 95 and 96 as well. In 97 and 98, they settled that show into a single indoor performance theater that transformed that into the Broadway sensation entitled Blast.
Okay.
Have you heard of Blast? We got to watch some Blast. Blast was very cool. Blast was a Broadway-style drum corps show. There was guard, there was brass, etc., etc. Debuted originally in London, returned to the U.S. in 2000. It won the Tony Award in 2001 for Best Special Theatrical Event.
So they transcended the DCI space.
Exactly.
one might say.
Blast toured consistently through 2012 and has reformed occasionally for short tours as recently as 2018. They transcended drum corps into the pop, and that was their idea, was to take drum corps and bring it into a more palatable medium on a smaller stage, etc. 1991, Roman Images, their championship year. Great show. A little bit of costuming. They have the special like Roman helmets.
They do. It's cool.
Lots of symphonic music of Ottorino Respighi. Things you would know. 1992, American Variations, one of maybe their most famous show,
Yes.
was all American images and American
much,
music and lots of stars and things like that.
Patriotism, etc.
Patriotism. Exactly, and that show has been mimicked again, especially the opening fanfare with the timpani solo opening with Star Spangled Banner, and that whole opening fanfare thing. You hear that quite a bit being mimicked over time. And then in 1993, the music of Barber and Bartok, definitely weird-ish.
It's very distinct.
It's very distinct. They were trying to cut the envelope, push the envelope a little bit.
I think they did. The whole show is just like dissonance and then slow dissonance,
Very
and then fast
modern.
dissonance again.
Very
and it's
modern.
very crunchy.
The Barber stuff from that show has been used by drum corps forever. The Medea's Dance of Vengeance. Carolina Crown used it not long ago,
2016, one of my favorite
2016,
Crown
in
shows.
Relentless. And, interesting that they use it in a modern art show. Star of Indiana does. Crown uses it in a Wild West cowboy show. What do you think about Star of Indiana?
I think that Star of Indiana is one of the... maybe I don't want to say that because we're about to talk about two more corps that also could fit this bill. But what I was saying was this might be one of the most unique drum corps in terms of their journey, that like they were only in existence for 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And then they turned into Broadway and then like all those other things and like you said, transcended the space, which is just not something that you hear about happening to really anyone else. So they're interesting, they're unique, but there are more unique corps on this list.
We're going to get
to
it. Their quick rise was most noted because when they hired their original staff, they did two things. One is they hired some drum corps staff royalty that knew the drum corps business very well. And number two was they hired high-powered educational brass and percussion educators, not necessarily drum corps people, but educators. And visually, they hired away from the cadets a famous drill writer whose name was George Zingali. And when George Zingali came on staff, he had promised the cadets that he was going to be with the cadets forever, sort of like, I love you guys, this is my home.
Yeah.
Star of Indiana offered him triple what he was making with the cadets, and so money talks.
What an offer.
As they say. And so he went from doing things like the Z-Pull and the famous interesting company fronts to the
Cross to cross.
Cross to cross. And there's a lot of, if you noticed in these shows, Star of Indiana always made a star on the field.
They did.
Somewhere. He kind of instituted that and getting into the star in crazy sort of ways. So Cadets and Star of Indiana have that in common, the link of visual design by George Zingali. Let's talk about that. One of my favorite old drum corps is the 27th Lancers. First competed in DCI in 1968. They placed as high as second place in 1980. They are a two-time medalist, never won a championship. However, their legacy is derived from their style of music, marching, color guard, Busby hats, kilts, male rifle line sort of thing. Very classic music, British band classics like Crown Imperial and the Host Suites and others. Danny Boy, the famous Irish ballad, was a famous closure that they used 10 times in their 19-year history. They closed with Danny Boy. Of course, in the 70s, if you look at drum corps repertoire, drum corps would often use the same music 2 or even 3 years in a row or come back to it 2 years later. The reason is the seasons were much shorter. They didn't do all of the winter camps, so doing music that returning members would know helped you get to there faster. That's also the reason a lot of the drill is not very groundbreaking, lots of repetitive in drill because you didn't have as much.
The activity just wasn't as big.
Yeah, right. A rotating company front was one of their most famous drill moves. They did that a lot with Danny Boy. You also, and I know you noticed this, that was an era of marching timpani, strap on the timpani, marching chimes.
Looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Bad time to be a percussionist.
1986 was their last competitive season, citing financial reasons for their dismantling. I gave you shows from 1975, 77, and 81. They're not really named. There's no titles. In the 70s, there weren't really titles to shows, unless it was like the music of a composer or the music of a Broadway musical or something like that.
Yes.
But they tended not to do that.
The thing about these 3 shows is, in this era, this happens a lot. And for me, with this corps specifically, while this corps is unique from other corps in the sense that the uniforms are like very Boy Scoutish,
Yep.
and like British Royal Guards, and like it's very different from anything I've ever seen. But the 3 shows themselves are very similar to each other.
Yep.
Where they're all, classical music all the way through, and 2 of them end with Danny Boy. So they're very similar to each other. They're good. I drew a line between them and a lot of marching bands now that are still very old school, because this was kind of the era of drum corps that founded a lot of what many marching bands still are and were for a long time.
Yeah, if you're going to your local high school football game, and lots of your high school marching bands were mimicking corps like the 27th Lancers in the 60s
Yes.
and 70s. And then as drum corps evolved, because high school bands are often tied to the tradition of their community and they have an
Yes.
identity, and if a director stays a very long time, then they may still be like these corps. You may see drill that is symmetrical from one side of the field to the other, random songs. They play one classical tune, one jazz tune, and a rock closer, just kind of music that doesn't necessarily have thematic material all the way through. Some of these Crown Imperial shows, I don't know if it's the ones that I gave you, they did do some rock tunes just kind of thrown in there.
Yes.
Earth, Wind, and Fire pop tune from the 70s sort of thing.
Yeah,
was thrown in there. And there wasn't the thematic like we would see today. Do you know why that was often the case?
Why there was a lack of thematic material?
Lack of thematic and lack of creativity.
I just assumed that was not the trend, I suppose.
It wasn't the trend. And
It
one
didn't
was I
score
mentioned budget and I mentioned time, so you reduce things because you don't have a lot of time.
Well,
but
that's the
also
same reasons why high schools don't do thematics.
the judging system was also very different in the 70s and 80s. In the 70s, we had what we called the tick system. Every drum corps in every category started with 100 points, and every mistake you made, the judges would make a little mark in the column, and you would take points off based on how egregious the error was.
Okay.
And so you were not incentivized to try anything
New.
interesting, or extraordinarily difficult, because you were more likely to receive a tick from an error.
So you were just trying to not lose points.
You were trying to not lose points.
I see.
When they changed the system into being a reward system, now you are being credited for creativity, you are being credited for difficulty, and that helped through the 80s to begin to evolve the system forward. It evolved first musically. That's why in the 80s and early 90s, you see the music getting more challenging, more difficult, and air quotes, weirder. But the drill mainly stays a lot the same, unless you have somebody like George Zingali on your staff, or in the later 90s, Michael Gaines. So that's kind of why the 27th Lancers look like they do, and a lot of drum corps from this era look like they do. Hey, fun fact, they're from Massachusetts, and do you know who marched in the 27th Lancers and was an early guard staff and visual designer?
Is it someone that we know personally, or am I just...
George Zingali.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is
I
George
did not
Zingali.
catch the-
He's an alumnus
I didn't catch the drift.
of the 27th Lancers. He became their drill designer and then went from the Lancers to the Cadets, did the Z-Pull, got hired for more money with the Star of Indiana.
Did he work anywhere after that?
No, his last year with the Star of Indiana was, I think, 92, and he passed away in 93.
Okay.
Or he passed away just 1 year after he stopped. He couldn't physically continue a season, so he quit or retired. He was only 39 or 40 years old,
Sure.
so it's hard to say retired at the age of 40. But no, Star of Indiana, that was his last.
Sure.
That was his last go around, and I think it was 92, because I think 93 they had somebody else for that Bartok show. So, yeah, I love the 27th Lancers. I also watched. Did you notice? It's tough in some of these videos. It may go right over your head too. Like there's a starter pistol at the beginning and at the end.
No.
You didn't
I did
notice?
not notice that.
When you watch a lot of these old shows, again, this is the tick system. Of course, like now, there's timing and penalties. You can't
Yes.
have a show that's too long or too short. And if you watch these old videos at the beginning, before the first note, you'll hear a starter pistol, like at a track meet or whatever, bang, right? And that starts your time. That's like starts the time. And then there was another one, I think it's 90 seconds before the time your time is up. So like in the middle of the closer, you would just hear this bang on a starter pistol. And then another one when the time was up. Which was
this
probably,
is just like this is an entirely different activity from what we have now. Like
It
to
is
draw the line
totally
between
different
the
activity.
27th Lancers show and the Observer Effect, the Bluecoats 2025, is like the common thing is that they're playing instruments on a football field, and that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean they're playing their marching right there.
Yeah.
You know,
but even the marching is totally different. Like
at its central element, it is the same.
I agree. Yes.
It's music, it's moving, and even more central core than that, it's entertaining.
Yes.
You watch these, you know, when the 27th Lancers in 1970, whatever it is, get into that company front and hit "Oh Danny Boy,"
Yeah.
the crowd goes nuts.
Entertaining. Yes.
They're entertained. Speaking
Of entertainment.
entertainment, thank you for that. We have our fourth drum corps, maybe my favorite drum corps of any drum corps ever. That's hard to say, but
Wow.
but you've gotten a sense of it. You were just watching these going,
it's something
oh my
else.
goodness. This is the Velvet Knights. You heard me right. This is not made up. This is not a spoof comedy. This is an actual drum corps. They were founded in 1963. Struggled with success early on. Being from California, they were dealing with the Blue Devils. They were dealing with the Santa Clara Vanguard and trying to recruit. At that time, there was also a drum corps called the Anaheim Kingsmen, which were a very famous, very high-quality drum corps. And so they're trying to get talent into their pool, and it's tough because why wouldn't you just go march Vanguard or Blue Devils when they're already established? They placed no higher than 25th.
Whoa.
Until the 1980s, when they rebranded as a more laid-back style, embracing more popular music, comedic themes, and, as you noticed right away, an outlandish look. They became known for their red and white tuxedos, Converse All-Star footwear, and wacky shows. VK, Velvet Knights, known as VK, would make DCI finals from 1984 through 1990 and again in 1992. Their highest placement was in 1987 with their show Magical Mystery Tour, which placed 7th and was followed in 1988 by Magical Mystery Tour Part 2, which placed 8th. It is not their championships for which they're remembered, it is their style. It is their entertainment value, which was absolutely so different from any drum corps, certainly at that time, and quite frankly, even now.
Very much.
Known as the Clown Princes of Drum Corps, they ultimately would meet financial and IRS tax issues and were forced to fold following the 1996 season. I gave you 3 shows to watch: 1986 James Bond, 1988 Magical Mystery Tour Part 2, and the 1993 Cartoon Classics.
Yes. And so we talked about, this era in the 70s, 80s, 90s of, traditional drill and music. And we talked about, how the new era of 2010s and beyond is something else. And so you have those two things in the transition years in between. And throughout all of that, I don't know if I've ever seen something like this. Even now, where you can pretty much do anything creatively on the field and make it cool. No one is doing what this corps is doing in the 80s and 90s. The first one I watched was the Magical Mystery Tour Part 2, which opens with Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles.
Yeah, quick fanfare.
And then it continues to go on through some different scenery of around the world, and it ends with America, and they have a guy in an Uncle Sam hat that is huge and covers his entire body go through the middle of the corps, and then they have a George Washington and like some other dancer, and
I think it's supposed to be Lady Liberty.
maybe, and they do the Rockettes kick
they do the
thing
they do
while
the
the
can
court
can.
does the company
While
front.
they're playing Yankee Doodle.
Yeah, and it's like very
Other drum corps don't. You missed earlier in that show when they play some Latin jazz,
Yes,
Spanish jazz, and they have a bullfight with actually two people in a bull costume.
like in a middle school play.
Yeah,
Like
it's a middle school play. Yeah, they have a toreador and a girl there, and they're doing like a little tango thing, and then the bull shows up and he pees on the guy after he
Yes.
murders the guy. Yeah, look, guys, listeners, we are not making this up. Look it up.
It's real.
Velvet Knights, that's Knights with a K, like the sword Knigget's person. Yeah, look, the closest thing I can come up with to what the Velvet Knights were is probably Madison Scouts.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I
still
agree.
not even in the same ballpark,
No.
but, Madison Scouts, pure entertainment, Latin jazz. Yeah, they cared about winning, but they cared more about entertaining you.
Yeah.
Getting, we got 99 problems, but getting your butt out of the seat ain't one of them.
Yes.
And that's Velvet Knights.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they know they weren't going to win. They're just here in their red Converse All-Stars, dressed up like cartoon classics, right? The three little pigs are dressed up,
Yeah.
and you have the wolf, and they burn down the house.
Yeah.
And it's Saturday morning cartoons. Bugs Bunny is out there
Yeah.
dancing or running around the field with, I don't know, Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
But also what you noticed was they can play.
Yeah, they're good. They're legit. They got a legit
brass throwing down, drums throwing down. And of all of the drum corps in this era, their drill's moving faster than most other corps in the 80s. For 80s, most other corps in the 80s.
It's because of the Converse All-Stars. They got
the
the athletic shoes on.
That's right. Got the
No
athletic shoes
dingle
on.
slowing them down.
No, just go for it. So, yeah, I love Velvet Knights because they're irreverent. I don't mean irreverent in like a sacrilegious sort of way, but they are definitely
They
like
almost are, though. They're like sacrilegious to the,
to the
standards of drum corps.
to the activity, right?
Yes.
And I love that. I love that they just didn't like, let's just go
It's kinda
have
cool.
fun. You said when we were watching this sort of reminds you of like sometimes marching bands and drum corps just take themselves too seriously.
Yes, often.
And that's not the Velvet Knights.
Yeah, it's not the point of the activity.
And I also love that they started off trying to be serious, trying to do it the way everybody else is doing it, and then reinvented themselves and just went, hey, you know what?
And it's hard to say this
Grip
because
it and rip it.
It's hard to say this because the cadets are on this list also, and the cadets are one of the most famous corps ever. But I mean, this corps might be my favorite of the four on this list, like just because of how different they are. And I'm not sure if I can really make that statement and put them over the cadets. It's the cadets, but they are certainly different enough in a very fun way.
Had you ever heard of the Velvet Knights prior to this?
I had not.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Just thought, you watch a lot of drum corps.
But not this.
No, it's fun. Baseball. I mean, their Shako is usually a baseball hat.
Yes.
Or I think in the James
got,
Bond
like, a
show,
cap
you
on.
didn't watch the James Bond. I think they were all wearing like fedoras or something in the James Bond show. They're all wearing, I think they're wearing black tuxes in that because they're all dressed like
I
they're
like
all
the
James
white
Bond.
tuxes with the black pants and the red Converse.
Yeah, they wore the white jackets with the red cummerbund
that's
and
cool.
the red
That's
Converse.
almost actually unironically a good uniform.
Right.
Like they were trying to be obnoxious and it's like accidentally kind of cool.
Well, and they were changing, ironically, they were changing their uniform virtually every year.
Which is something no one did.
Which is something no one
that.
did. And now, fast forward, Velvet Knights setting the trend for all of drum corps
Right.
in the future.
Not the Blue Coats who?
Hey, I'm telling you, somebody's going to come out in 2026 with giant Three Little Pig costumes, and we're
I have a guess on who it would be.
Who do you think that would be?
Honestly, the Blue Stars have been pretty campy the last couple of years, so it wouldn't really surprise me that much.
You're not wrong. So the Velvet Knight,
They've got that vibe going
the
on.
most likely to become the Velvet Knights would be the Blue Stars. All right, I could buy that. Most likely to become the 27th Lancers.
That's a great question. Super traditional? I mean, you gotta go either like Phantom or SCV. SCV still got like the bet leg high step thing.
I think I'd go, yeah, that's true.
And they oftentimes still have the V on their uniform.
But
They're
they're
the
also-
most traditional.
But they're also totally doing like the dubstep,
Yeah, but they got no props.
super modern. music
That's
now.
true. It's kind of cool, though. You don't think that the 27th Lancers would be doing that if it was 2026 and they still existed?
No, I think they'd still be rocking out the Danny Boy at the end of the show.
Who do you think's the most likely to become a Broadway show after the season's over?
Crown.
You think?
Yeah.
Just because God's Horn Line?
I think it's because they can't bust into the top 3 or 4, and they're just going to go, let's go do something else.
Or
That
maybe
was-
they'll win this year.
That was also one of the things about Star of Indiana is those years in that early 90s when they didn't win, they maybe should have.
Yeah.
And so there was some conspiracy theory about they're just upset, so they're just going to go do their own thing. Like, we're just going to do brass theater. You know, because they came onto the scene so fast, so quick, so hot, scored 10th, never didn't make finals, medalist, you know, in their whatever 6th or 7th year. And, you know, I mean, Drum Corps is a club where you kind of have to pay your dues along the way.
Right.
You can't just like become the soloist. You can't just become a staff
Well,
member. You have to pay your dues.
Maybe it's the Blue Devils. Maybe the Blue Devils don't medal for 2 years in a row and they go, screw this. We're going to take our 26 championships and go
You know what?
elsewhere.
Take our toys and go play out. You know what? You're maybe not wrong. You're maybe
They can go do Ghost Light on the stage.
You're maybe not wrong. Or Madison Scouts when they don't make finals for the 17th year in a row and they just go play Malaguena every summer.
No. But there's an extra spot this year because no mandarins.
No mandarins. I'm hoping the Scouts get back into it.
I would love that.
Coming up here in another month or so, maybe another month and a half, 2 months, we are going to do a DCI year preview. We'll talk about the shows that we know about.
You want to do predictions? It's
We
like
don't
way
know.
too early.
Yeah.
predictions?
Oh, yeah. We're going to do a way too early prediction. Not now, but we've got that coming down the road. And of course, next week
Brackets.
on the show, we'll reveal our brackets. We've already talked in this episode about our bracket challenge. So go ahead and download that and tell us who you think we picked. Now, it's one pick. The Symbols and Cynicism
We do
pick.
not agree.
Even though we did not, we agreed on most
We got to
picks.
come up with a way to agree in the next week because we don't actually have a winner yet.
Yes,
Because
we do.
I don't think it is who
Yes,
you
we
think
do.
it is.
No, I get to pick the winner because it's my podcast.
Yeah, but I'm the guest.
Great. Too bad.
You hate your guests.
So we've got some other brackets here. I wanted to get your opinion. We're not going to have you do the bourbon bracket because you're 17 years old and don't know anything about bourbon, and you couldn't drink bourbon because it's got wheat in it. You would immediately
Yeah,
puke.
that would be unfortunate.
Not only because it's alcoholic, but because there's wheat in there. So what do you got there? The baseball movie bracket?
I have the baseball movie bracket.
All right. So there's 8 baseball movies. You're not a real big baseball movie
Let's count
guy.
how many of these I've seen.
Yeah, how many of those have you seen?
So there's 8 here.
Yep.
3. I have seen 3 of
Well,
these.
which 3
movies.
have you seen?
I have seen Field of Dreams, I think. I know what it's about, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen Moneyball. I watched it in my geometry class freshman year because it's about math, kind of. And I have seen Sandlot because if you haven't seen The Sandlot, you have never seen a movie.
So of those 3, which one is your favorite?
I mean, I think Moneyball is the best movie out of those 3, but I just like The Sandlot because it's
Okay.
The Sandlot.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
All right.
disagree with both of those takes?
Well, I can't tell you what I disagree with because that's giving away the bracket.
Oh, you're right.
But I don't like Sandlot. So anyway,
You don't.
which now Greg and I did this. Who do you think we picked to win? Now you don't know Greg, but you know me. So which
Yes.
one do you think we picked?
I think you really like Field of Dreams. You told me the other day that that is one of your favorite sports movies ever, and this is just baseball, which is why it's the 1 seed. But I would guess that.
ChatGPT picked the seeding, not me.
Okay. Oh yes, it's at the top. Okay, then I don't know him at all, so I don't know if he just like has a hatred for Field of Dreams and debated you. But I'll guess Field of Dreams. That would be my
Okay.
assumption.
All right. The other bracket you have there is the rants
Indeed.
bracket. These are rants that from the end of every episode of the
Yeah.
podcast, and you heard some of these rants as a student or just as living in a house with me
did
for
both.
for almost 18 years. You've heard a lot of these rants. Now I put the bracket together, so I did the seeding, but I did not make any of the winning choices. Aunt Kathy did all of the choices.
okay.
So
Interesting.
looking at the bracket, which one, any of those rants jump out to you as your favorite?
Well, I know that in the Speedless one, which is the number 1 seed, you referenced a specific road in our city that I drive on twice a day, every single day.
At least. Yeah.
And at least 3 of the 2 times that I drive on that road every day, someone is driving 5 to 10 miles an hour below the speed limit, and there is legitimately a speed limit sign about every 20 feet.
Yeah.
And there's almost never a cop. And it's like, even if there was a cop, you're not speeding. So why can't we drive the speed limit? I think that is strong, but I also know that she doesn't ever drive on that road. So people who stand on an airplane, I'm really just going off of which ones of these I also get the most upset about. People who stand on an airplane
you are my son.
Yes, but people who stand on an airplane is like not even upsetting. It's just like, why are you doing that? Like, what are you doing? Why are we doing this?
Yes.
And then I have never seen the Star Wars Holiday Special, but
Do you remember the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special?
I liked that.
That's 5 times better than
With
the Star
Kevin
Wars
Bacon?
song.
I liked the Kevin Bacon.
That thing is awful.
I don't know if I've seen the people who read PowerPoints one. What is that? What is that referencing?
Well, you've seen this, like you have this with with teachers. When teachers put like PowerPoint or Google Slides up there, and then instead of just expounding on the points that are up there, they just read them to you as if...
so like there's a whole paragraph on the slide.
Yeah, and they just read them to you.
Yeah, so I'm not even listening to you if you're doing that, because
Right.
I'm just reading the thing and then
Right.
zoning out. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, that's another one that's kind of like the people who stand on an airplane, where it's like not really even frustrating, it's just dumb. Like, why are you doing that? I don't know. I mean, the speed limits one,
You go on speed limits.
you don't like sand though. I see that.
I hate sand.
I hate sand. It's coarse and rough. Gets everywhere.
You like sand though.
I don't like sand. I like the beach, and there happens to be sand present.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that speed limits probably wins because of where she lives. She also has that issue.
Everybody deals with speed limits.
Yes.
I mean, we all have them. If you drive a car,
It would be...
you deal with, or
Yes.
ride a bike, I guess. You even deal with speed limits. All right. Hey, thanks for being here. This is fun to talk about these old drum corps and these brackets. We'll see you again next week to reveal our winners in the DCI
As soon as we figure it out.
bracket. It's figured out.
not.
You're just going to have to deal with it. So go. Isn't it time for you to go to bed or something?
It's 7 o'clock.
See you next week, Harrison.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, happy birthday.
Yeah, it is.
It is your birthday.
It's a happy one too.
It is a happy one. Happy first week of the new job.
Thank you. Yes.
Third.
Half of the first week.
Well, but it is happy. It is the first week. Half. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
We mentioned on the podcast, I don't know, a month ago or so on the podcast that you are now the director of the Emergency Management Association for our county, a job you have long since sought after, awaiting the retirement of your predecessor. That is now coming, and so this week you're in. Congratulations.
I'm actually getting paid to do it now.
Yeah, they're actually gonna eventually probably.
Hopefully.
The way those things works, like you do the job 3 weeks and then the paperwork kicks in and all of that kind of stuff. So, and in honor of that, we're doing a bourbon bracket today. 4 versus 5 on our matchup today. So the 4 seed is the Maker's Mark and 5 is Woodford Reserve. So we're starting with Makers here. The first thing I think of when I hear Maker's Mark is the bottle with the wax top, the wax seal.
Yeah, the red wax drip. That's the staple.
And that's every bottle's hand dipped. Mm-hmm. It's the only bourbon in the world, right, that does that. The hand dipping of the wax. Maybe I made that up.
I think the Knob is Knob Creek dipped. I don't know if Knob Creek is dipped or not.
I always thought it was Makers.
Anyways, I know that they're the only ones that use red.
So this is a 70% corn, 16% wheat, and 14% barley. The 110 proof. So this is 20% or 20 proof higher than last week. We had 290s. So 10% more. And we've got the small bottle here, but a regular bottle of Makers is right around the $45 range.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not bad.
I think a lot of people think when they think bourbons that don't know about bourbons, they think two things. They think Jack Daniels and they think Maker's Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Probably why this made it on the list. I mean, it's a well-known, tip-of-the-tongue household brand.
Coke. It's like Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would I say it's Coke and Pepsi?
I mean,
That seems a bit derogatory.
Mr. Pibb.
RC Cola. RC Cola in
What's the one? Dr. Thunder?
Dr. Thunder. And then if you never thought it could get worse, they have Diet Dr. Thunder.
No, thank you. So, so the Makers, I mean, it smells
Speaking of sparkling water.
like bourbon. Tastes like bourbon. It's bourbon.
Yeah. I think this would be a decent entry level bourbon. I mean, see, you go back to when people think of bourbon, they think of, Jack Daniels, which isn't bourbon, but they think of Jack Daniels and then they think of Maker's Mark.
Right.
I think of it more along the lines of, like, yes, I think of those, but those are good entry level. Like, once you start getting into the, the finer tastes.
And yet at the price point, Bullet is cheaper.
Yeah.
Lots of these are cheaper, less expensive bourbons. I think this would be good with mixed with Coke, something like that, like a cocktail, but not, I guess, a mixed drink rather than a cocktail. We're not giving away any of our answers, but I think we're giving away answers today.
It's good. And color wise, visually, I would say it's a little bit. Now, I've obviously had a little bit more of this than the Woodford, but it looks a little lighter than the Woodford.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a touch. You know what it looks like? It looks like the eggs of the dinosaurs on Jurassic Park. Like those the little orange balls that.
Oh yeah, not the eggs, but like the amber.
Yeah.
That they have the mosquito solidified in. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, you're right. It does kind of look like that. And obviously we talked about the classic shaped bottle, the red wax, the classic label. Yeah, very classic.
And you're going to find it anywhere.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you might even find this at Casey's.
Yeah. And the little ones you can fit in your pocket.
That's right.
Right next to the Fireball.
Yeah, under the Southern Comfort is the Knob Creek.
I'm on to the Woodford.
Okay, on to the Woodford.
Oh, very sweet. Woodford. Now this is we've had double oaked on the podcast. This is not double oaked. This is just straight.
This is it.
So this is
90.4. Like everything else with Woodford, the proof is 90.4.
The proof is 90.4, 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley.
I know you said we're not giving away our answers, but
I mean,
the proof is in the pudding. No pun intended.
Yeah, no, we're not giving away any answers, but I mean, look, if anybody's listening to this podcast and the bourbon episodes, like, they know that we are fans of Woodford Reserve.
Yeah.
We've been there. You've been there a couple of times. We've done the tasting. We've had the double oak. When we talk about Woodford is always on the tip of our tongue when we just talk about various brands and bourbons and stylings. The bottles are classic, very uniform look. All of the different versions of Woodford have a slightly different proportion to the bottle, but all that sort of thin, flat, rounded, broad shoulders, tall neck, kind of look, same labeling, etc. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a bottle of Woodford.
No.
So Woodford looks like we're looking at the straight bourbon. It's right around that $25 range. So this is significant. Again, you go back to the Makers at 40-something versus Woodford at 20-something. I don't know.
I'm gonna. Yeah. This is a classic case of just because it costs more doesn't necessarily mean that it's better.
Look, we're not going to give away any answers, but if you are doing our bracket challenge and you are going to guess that Bob and Matt picked Maker's Mark as the champion, I would suggest against it.
Yeah. Edit.
Submit again. So on next week's episode, anything else here on Makers versus Woodford?
No.
So next week we're doing the end, baby. We're doing the winners all the way down to the champion. That will be on next week's episode. Between now and then, on the show notes on this episode and also on our social medias, is a Google form which will allow you, the listener, to tell us who you think we picked. So you can go through all 8 bourbons and you can select the one that you think Matt and I are picking, just champion, not the whole bracket, just the champion. And if you pick all 4 winners of the Rant Bracket, the DCI Bracket, the Baseball Movie Bracket, and the Bourbon Bracket, we send you a prize package with some fidgets and keychains, and water bottle stickers. So complete that. That must be completed by Sunday night, March 15th. Because the episode drops on the 16th. Speaking of have you been following some of the other brackets that we're doing?
Yeah, I have.
So I've got the, let's see what you don't know the answer to any of these because we don't cross-contaminate this. Here is that's the baseball movie bracket. So I thought we'd get some of your answers here. Did this with my sister on the Rant Bracket, kind of got her guesses about what we did.
Hang on as I take another sip of Woodford. Okay, so you're wanting my answers of like
which one is your favorite?
Which one is my favorite?
Yeah, you don't get a vote in the baseball bracket, but
okay.
But weigh in.
All right. You know, I know that it is a Cinderella story. I love The Rookie. The Rookie is good. Dennis Quaid in that movie is.
And which one do you think we picked?
Major League.
Major League. Well, that's a pretty good guess because, as we've said, Greg and I are both Indians / Guardians fans, and that movie is about the Indians way back in the day. So if you want to guess with Matt, you're going to select Major League. Now, he has no inside insight to these. Okay, so here is, I don't know, this is pretty small print because it's a 12-team drum corps bracket. You've probably seen most of these. The top 4 seeds get that first round bye. You've probably seen almost all of those, or most of them anyway.
All of them.
All of them? Which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite out of?
It would have to be Cavaliers 02.
Frameworks.
Yeah, Frameworks.
Okay, all right. And now Harrison and I do this bracket, and we haven't recorded the final one yet here, but I can tell you as we've been watching these together, there is a lot of disagreement. You and I have pretty much agreed on the bourbons all the way through this bracket, but there's been a lot of disagreement. We are picking one winner. It's not a Harrison winner and a Bob winner. So who do you think we are picking?
Well, part of me wants to go through, maybe we'll do that when we're done recording, and I want to figure out which ones you disagree on the most. I'd say you probably had to go with Babylon.
Babylon is the champion. Okay, all right. And then here's our Rant Bracket. Now you, having been on staff and around and a former student, heard a lot of these rants live and in person multiple times. Speed limits, that's mostly Fox Road speed limit. GIF or JIF, that was a big one. Garage sale traffic, you and I have we share that rant together. Well, the Fox Road rant, we share that one too.
A lot of these we share together.
People who stand on an airplane, you are primary, you travel a lot more than me, so that's a huge one for you. 4-way stop sign, we live in the same neighborhood area, so we both deal with that same 4-way stop. Star Wars Holiday, have you ever seen the Star Wars Holiday special?
I don't know that I have.
Oh God, don't. It's awful.
Okay.
People who read us PowerPoints, you know how they put the thing up there, read you the point, and then sand, beaches. I hate sand. So that was one rant. So any favorites there? You've heard most of these in your life.
I would say my top 2 would have to be people who stand on an airplane in 4-way stop signs. It could be 3:00 in the morning and I'm coming down Irvin and get to that stop sign and somebody is driving up Walnut and is going to stop at the same time.
So which one do you think now? I was not involved with this selection process because I'm biased because I created the bracket. So Kathy picked all of these winners. So who do you think she picked for the Rant champion?
Okay, so now if she picked them, did she rank them?
No, I ranked them.
You ranked them.
I set up the bracket.
Okay.
She picked the winners.
I'm going to say the winner is I would say probably people who read PowerPoints.
Okay.
As the winner.
Okay. Well, I can tell you this, listener, if you are going to do our bracket challenge submission, do not pick all of the ones that Matt picked because he was not all correct. So if you're listening, you can put together what Kathy picked and you can put together what Matt picked. She was not right either and he was not right. So you can maybe start to, this is like that, remember that game Clue where you had or Mastermind is what it was called. You had the 4 dots and you kind of had to match them up with the one.
There's probably people in their basement with pictures and red string and their hair.
Probably is like the conspiracy meme person. Yeah. So make sure you get your bracket challenge in before this Sunday night, March 15th at midnight, and results will be posted on next week's episode on the 16th. Episode drops at 1 a.m. Matt, anything else here? Makers versus Woodford, your thoughts?
I have no additional thoughts.
No additional thoughts. Then next week, we're going to get together. We're going to make our final selections. We may have to taste a couple of these again as we do that because...
What a travesty.
Yeah, I know, right? We made our first round selections already, but then man, what does the semifinals winner taste like against the other semifinals winner and then the champion? So may have to buckle down this week and drink some bourbon.
Darn.
It's a rough life, isn't it?
It's terrible.
Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
No, breathe. Find your happy place.
Cruise control. You know that thing in your car that you could turn on and it maintains the same speed over a long distance? More of you should use cruise control because A, it's gas efficient. It helps your gas mileage. So use it. It saves you money to use cruise control. It also is safer for those around you because you're not speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. And then the people that are trying to use cruise control get very annoyed with you. Even though our newer cars have this adaptive cruise control where if you get too close to the car in front of you, it will automatically slow you down. Now that's a whole nother annoying rant altogether. And a related rant is, what is this thing they put in new cars now where when you stop at a stoplight, it turns your engine off so that when you press the gas pedal, it has to start up the engine before. Oh, I hate that thing. What's that thing? I hate it. That's not the point today. The point is cruise control. You investigate it. Use cruise control. Set it at the speed limit. Set it 5 below the speed limit if you want, or 5, whatever you're doing, great. But use cruise control. It helps drivers around you predict what your speed is, and then we can choose to ride behind you. We can choose to go around, but this speed up, slow down, speed, it's annoying, it's not efficient, and quite frankly, it's not all that safe. So investigate it. Use cruise control. Highly recommended. Okay, homework for the week. The homework for the week is fill out the bracket challenge. Fill it out a bunch. It's free. Why not? It's fast. It's easy. You could win some stuff. The form is included in the link to the description of this episode. You can also find it on our social media. You can fill out as many entries as you want. You can only win once per household, but you can fill out as many as you want. Entries are due by midnight, Sunday, March 15th. So don't delay because we got to have those entries in before we post the episode with the results, which is on next week's episode. Okay, that's the show. Make sure to leave a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app of your choice. You can text the show with a link at the bottom of the description or check out our merch store at themarchingarts.com/RHS. We hope you'll join us next week for the results of CYD'S Bracket Challenge and our Rant Bracket winning rant. Can't tell you what that is yet, but we'll have it next week. Thanks for joining me today. The theme music is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. The show logo is designed by John Suh. This show is produced by my sister, Kathy. I hope you'll join us next time for more reflections and rantings on symbols and cynicism.